All right, so hello everyone. My name's Mr. Hall Patton, but you can just call me HP. You should all have a syllabus in front of you. And welcome to the first half of American history. So you'll see on there that this is a very fluid class, that we're going to probably have to change things because of all of this coronavirus stuff. So I might have to change up how everybody is scheduled for in-class stuff, depending on how everything goes. Last time they didn't really give us much of a forewarning. They just said, right as soon as we hit spring break, they were like, okay, no more classes. And that could happen again. So, keep up with the emails. I'll be sending out emails with any kind of changes. You'll also see that there are office hours listed at the top. This person right here is your GA. His name's Kevin. And he will be not having the same office hours as me, but it's just listed on there. We have to figure out what that is, so pay attention to the emails. My office hours, though, are correct. So, let me get a copy myself. As you can see, there is on the second page just your standard you have to wear a mask in class. Okay? I have to wear a mask, which hopefully you all can hear me just fine, right? Cool. It's very weird lecturing to such a wide area, but I guess this is necessary. So, yeah, they can't come into class without a mask. So, next, the assignments. Each week you will be reading primary sources. There is no textbook. So, no worries about going out and buying everything. It's online. Included in the syllabus online, which is posted on Learn right now, is the links for each and every week's reading assignment. Now, you're going to need to go online to get that, or you could try typing it in, I guess. Seems like a lot of work. But along with that, you're going to have a reading journal. So what that means is that basically I want you to write at least 100 words about what you think of the readings. What do you think they mean? Each week, these are primary sources. I will get into what that means. But basically, you're going to be reading stuff from the time that we're talking about. For instance, I believe the first week you have literal, you have some conquistador stuff and a couple creation myths to read. So what you do is that you put that into a large, Word document or something along those lines, and then the week of each test, because there are two tests, there's a midterm and a final, that week you email it to Kevin. Okay? There is no paper exchange. We actually can't do it. I can't take paper assignments. So everything has to be digital. Okay? So just compile it all into one big Word document, about 100 words per an entry. Each week you just write about what you read. Make it personal if you want. The main thing is we want to see you writing about what you read. Okay? Next are quizzes. Now, the quizzes are going to be multiple choice and taken online. Going to have one about every 2 or 3 weeks. And essentially, they're just going to be multiple choice questions. They can be taken from the readings or from the lecture. But the main thing is, pay attention, and you should easily be able to get those 100% right, and they're worth, 10 points apiece? Yeah, 10 points apiece. So you do we don't know how many we're going to do since everything's fluid, but it's just a multiple choice question, and it takes a week. So you will see the quiz come up on like a Monday or Tuesday, and it will be closed at Friday at midnight. I will email out that, pay attention, there's a quiz, but normally that will include stuff about what we're lecturing that week. So don't try to jump the gun. And, they close on Friday at midnight, so this class, the second half, is on Thursdays, so you have a day and a half to get it done. And finally, the tests. So I have to change things around and figure out how we're going to do the tests since we can only do it online. But you will have a week to do them, and they will close out on Friday at midnight. Same thing as the quizzes. But unlike the quizzes, which are just multiple choice, these are what are called identification questions. And basically, you're going to see a word, and you have to identify it. But it's not just like, Revolutionary War. It was the war that made America independent, right? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for significance. Now, historical significance is a whole thing that we're going to get into in just a second, but understand that's what the whole thing is. So with all that, we're also going to have discussions in class. There's no requirement, there's no grading on all that. The main thing is so that you guys can understand what we're talking about. Not just what I'm saying, but what the historical significance is. That's what everything is geared around in this class, is historical significance. Obviously, we're going to have split lectures, but those will be posted. Basically, I will be going straight from here to my office, cutting it all together with the slides, and then posting it online. So, not saying that class is mandatory, but if you want that class discussion, you need to be here. But also remember, we will be recording this, and that will be posted online for the other half to see. So, be aware that you will be recorded. So, with all that being said, any questions on the assignments or anything along those lines? Yeah. No, it's just voice recording, yeah. Yeah, we have a recorder right there, and there's my lavalier mic right here. Hopefully, we can just go off of that, but I'm not sure if it's too echoey in here or something along those lines. Any other questions? All right, so now I talked about primary sources. Who's ever heard about the difference between primary and secondary sources?
I think primary sources are like original sources from the time period, from like people who experienced it firsthand, versus like a secondary source would be gathered after the fact, so it's more of like a direct account from the time period.
Yeah, basically. Just in case, I will have to repeat what you guys say just in case I have to use this mic. So what she said was that it's basically original sources from the time, people who experienced whatever we're talking about. And that's a lot of it. But sometimes it can be reporting. It can, actually, basically anything can be a primary source in the way that you use it. So, for instance, a history book is typically considered a secondary source. Now, a secondary source means that you're using other sources, right? But if you're writing about the history of the history profession, suddenly those books become primary sources. See, it's the way that you use it. Now, the main thing is, are you using it as a thing that is using its own sources, or is it a source in and of itself? So, for instance, a newspaper article is typically considered a primary source, but sometimes they're reporting on something that you can go, like, a speech from some politician. Obviously, the speech of the politician is the primary source. So that's what those assignments will be, is that primary source of what will be in the lecture. Any questions on that? Cool. And finally, let's talk about historical significance. So historical significance is like, what does it mean, right? What is the reason that you need to know about this? Why is it significant? History is the story of us. We are part of it. So why is it significant to you is very much part of historical significance. But there's many, many other things that can bring meaning to place names, events, all the other things. I don't really care about you getting your dates right or spelling names correctly or anything along those lines. The thing I'm more concerned about is how you are able to put these things into the story of America. That's the main thing that makes something significant. It has a place in our story. So, how are ways that you can say, let's go back to that, American Revolution thing. What would be a way of saying that that's historically significant? Anybody? Oh, come on. Well, it doesn't help if I'm the only one talking. This is supposed to be class discussions. This is what a lot of these class discussions will be. Go ahead.
Would it be that it changed like the tide of how life was in the Americas?
Yeah, that's basically everything is going to be that, right? So what he said was it can be considered a way that it changed life in the Americas, which, yeah, absolutely. But it's also the thing that created a new country, right? The country we're currently in. So significance can be how it's important to that larger story. It can be about, like, what did it cause? But both of those, changed life in America. It created America. And, there's also political consequences. Not just like, we weren't friends with Britain anymore. That seems kind of silly because we still are, right? No, we're talking about what are the political consequences to this day. What are some things that always get brought up when you're talking about the revolution? Even with friends and that, or hearing it spoken by politicians today? What are they always using the revolution as?
Would it be a way to show our power? Like the nation's power? in a way?
Well, it was, I suppose, yeah, you could say that. You know, we defeated Britain and all that. But not without help, right?
The rights of the people.
Huh?
The rights of the people.
Yes, very good. You know, people will often talk about the revolution as like it's what gives us rights, and that's a very powerful political consequence. And then there's, of course, contextual meaning. Contextual meaning means like putting it not just within the story, but like what events are happening around it. You know, the story of the United States is not just one story. There's many, many stories. So other things are happening at the same time. For instance, in here in New Mexico, around the Revolution, New Mexico was fighting a series of fights with American Indians. You know, this was the time of Governor De Anza, and he was putting down a bunch of tribes and trying to pacify them. He managed to do it with the Comanche the same year we declared independence. He did so with the Navajos in 1781, something along those lines. So all of that is happening simultaneously. So how you can connect those two, like, if you can, that is also contextual meaning. The historians have a word for that. It's called synchronicity. As in, things seem to happen at the same time, but can't quite figure out why such similar things are happening. A lot of the time we will resort to calling it a revolution because we don't have any better way of saying it. So yeah, that's essentially what I'm looking for when it comes to historical significance. Okay, so pay attention to the lecture to try to draw that out. Why does it matter to you? Any questions? And finally, let's talk about citation. Now, unfortunately for everyone listening rather than watching this lecture, they won't be able to see this, but who knows any citation standards, APA, Chicago style, all that kind of stuff. That's just nodding heads. So what is the standard? What is the information you need to convey to cite something?
It's usually author, book number, page number.
Author, book, title, page number, and publisher, and publication date. If you have all that, I don't care about what your standard is, okay? Now, if you're going to cite things in your reading responses or anything, you need to have it cited correctly so that I know what you are citing. That doesn't just mean author and title. It needs to also have publisher, publication date, and page number, although if you're doing it from an online source, there's no page numbers. So, main thing is, I need to be able to find exactly what you're citing. But otherwise, if you want to use Chicago style, you want to use APA, you want to use MLA, doesn't matter to me. Although, Chicago style is clearly the superior one. But, yeah. Any questions? Well, we're not going to do a lecture today, so that's it. if you have any questions for me or Kevin, you can come up and ask. We'll stay around for another 10 or 20 minutes.